Okay, so today we will have lectures until 4 o'clock. At 12:30 we will have lunchtime, and between these two time we will have also some time break for 15 minutes. Plan for today is to check your previous one, homework, driving rules. After that we will try to After that, we will finish some basics related to objects and classes. We'll do some summary on this, and hopefully we'll start another big topic. It's object-oriented programming. Some basic part of that. Okay, so who has completed the task driving rules? Okay, so then I will show some example how it could be solved. Maybe you want to review some of your solution, what you would prefer. Write it from the scratch, review someone. Okay, good. So we are creating a new class in our existing project. The name of this class will be driving rule. Yeah, we will in this case create main method inside of this class. So in our requirements there was that there should be two fields, name and description. So the good practice is to set more strict visibility for our fields, so we will use private. And also we define the field description, and there was a required to that name could be set only once. So for these purposes we will use keyword final, which actually says that this variable could be set only once. If we set some value, we couldn't anymore modify it. So you may see that right now IDE informs us that field name may not have been initialized, so it's also part of final keyword, so we have to initialize it. Either we have to initialize it right here, either in constructor. Either there should be constructor where we define this variable. We will initialize it in constructor, but later there should be static field country, which is equal to Latvia. So this class should have two constant, max speed in city and max speed outside city. So constants are defined using static and final keywords in field signature. So yeah, and constant same, it's variable, and they also should have the return type. And also we have constant which defines speed outside city. Create few instance of driving rule. Also driving rule should count total amount of rules which we have created.
Excuse me, you said it's variable, but we cannot change this, right?
Yeah, we can't change it, but it's variable. What I mean, so it allocates space in memory, and we can refer to it.
No, I don't understand. Okay, I understand like this. If it's variable, it's variable. If it's final, it's cannot be changed.
Final variable.
It's not variable.
It's final variable.
Final
So you
variable.
define it, and that's it. You can only read it. So it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you can rewrite it later. It means that you can access some data from that.
But how, okay, in that case I do not understand the meaning variable.
Variable, it's placeholder which stores some information.
But anything somewhere in the space.
Sorry?
No,
You can speak in any appropriate language.
Но все же имеет где-то место в памяти.
No, yes. So we create object and it are stored somewhere, but we can access it through variable. We assign it to some variable.
Does it mean that everything is variable?
No. So variable usually represents some state. If you speak about object-oriented.
Yeah.
So methods are different. So there is all what stores some information is variable. What we can refer and retrieve data. In some cases we can update the value, but not with constants. So this all is variable. They are instance variable, so they belong to objects. This one is static, it belongs to class, and it's accessible through all instances from any context. And this one is constants, and they actually also belong to class. So, and also they couldn't be, they couldn't change their value because they are final.
How I can know that this belongs to the class and this belongs to the object?
Here it's declaration of instance variable. So we don't have here a keyword static, and it's declared inside of class, not inside of any method code block. We can have variable also declared here, and it will be method scope variable. But this will be instance variable. They will be available only when we will create instance of this class. Try to review this variable scope presentation. So I tried to explain it there. So it's quite important to understand. So
Yeah, repeat and
okay, we need to have some constructor for our fields. So for these purposes, we will declare it. As you remember, the constructor looks same as method, but it doesn't have return type. So we need to initialize inside of constructor final variable in order to our class would be compilable. So we will pass the name through constructor as an argument. So you may notice that right now there is no red marks. If we will hide constructor, we will get the error message that final field should be initialized. So okay. Yeah, and driving rule should count total amount of rules which we have created. So hint was use static field. So let's first create few driving rules. Let's call first one rules speed limit in city. And we'll create new variable which will store that driving rule object. And let's do some output information about our newly created object for easier debugging. Okay, so if we will duplicate it, and now we need to count the total amount of created objects. For these purposes we will have separate static variable which belong to class driving rule. We will call it amount. It will be static of type integer, and yeah, default value will be 0. And here in constructor we need to say that with each new created object we need to increment amount of created objects. So amount plus plus.
Do you really need to write down that amount is equal 0?
No, we don't need. Just to make it more explicit. and here we will just output total amount of created driving rules. We will access our static variable through this class, so I use control space after some statement, and it suggests to me possible possible solution, what I can type next. Okay. So here you can see what we should take into account. For example, if we will have few constructors, and another will be which receives the second argument, will be string and description. We need also take care about incrementing our total amount, so the logic should be the same. And for these purposes, better is to reuse one constructor from another. So there is kind of one main which you call from other constructor, and which store main logic, what should happen during some object initialization. Of course, we could do something like that, but it's code duplication and logic duplication. So while it's one statement, it's okay. But if there are a lot of stuff what should be done, we should avoid this. So what we should do, we should leave incrementing and main logic in one constructor, and we should call this constructor from another one. So what happens here, if this constructor will be called, then we will call another one, and we will pass to that constructor name, which was already passed from user, and null value. Null value is a default value for not initialized objects. So we have primitive and objects. Because description wasn't explicitly defined by user, we will not set any description. Again, it depends on needs of programmer. Maybe there could be some default description. What should be applied to every rule. I decided not to set nothing, just keep it null. So again, we can check which constructor method will be executed. We can navigate it pressing Ctrl and navigate our cursor on this identifier. So while code is can get into our screen, it's quite easy, but when your code is in different places and there is multiple lines, it's very convenient to use navigation. Okay, so we will get the name which was passed through this constructor, and also we will get description which will be null, and we will do increment of our total driving rules and print out some information. Okay. Let's see. So it works as we have specified, and also let's reuse another constructor. Here we will add some description like driver shouldn't drivers should drive up to, and here we can reuse our constants like we'll say max speed outside city and at so we have two objects. One is created by simple with constructor with an argument, and another object is created with constructor with two arguments. And we reuse in description one of the constant which we have defined in our class. So there could be another rule like speed analysis what was the word for the penalty? So
Fine.
yeah, fine. So the idea here is that we can reuse our often used values and bring them into constant. So it is needed, for example, if somehow the rule will be changed that in city we will be able to drive only 30 kilometers. We will not need to redefine them in each place, so we may redefine them in one place. It's not related only to constants, it also relates to variable, but because these values will not be programmatically changed, so we make them as constant, static final.
It's not like we are, like, when we are initializing the rule 2, we are saving it in a string description, and now the concatenation is happening in the time of the initialization. So when we change the variable max speed in the city, how the string will change.
Yeah, you're right. So for these purposes, it's generated. So when description is retrieved, the value will be put inside. So it's just for simplicity right now. But
Okay.
but
It would be a bit different version.
it would be differently
Yeah.
written, not a bit, but yeah. Okay. Yeah, so basically that it. What is next on our plan? Any questions?
Yes. Show
showing me an error next to public static void main, the line, and it says like the method main cannot be declared static, so not will be declared as static method, but I did everything wrong.
May you ask your neighbor to check?
But I'm asking you.
Okay. I need to see your code.
So here you created public class inside of non-public class. In order to reduce this space, you would choose like this.
This is all.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yep.
I have something not expected. Where it comes, this one, actually, because the line is finished here, right?
Oh. Driving.
Okay, this is my frame.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand. We put in this first one. Yeah. So it's everything is name argument. So you should first part should be name. I think after city you should have comma that will separate the arguments.
Well, no.
So right now that's only one argument. You should split them. So for this purpose we need to say it's there as first one argument, and we don't need continuation, there is argument another argument. In such case it says that the solution here is that, and that is null. Here. That is null. So this part is null, and we haven't got nothing. We went through this construction switch. So we will use navigation of IDEA. It will say that we can call this construction or this one.
Okay.
So yeah.
It takes
It was executed on first one because we have it was kind of one thing. It wasn't two arguments, it was one. And everything that was made.
But yeah, because I had such comma here. In this case, it doesn't make at all. Right.
Okay, and here we have another error. So arguments, all identifiers except last name should start from the small letter. So yeah, and here if you will notice, it's referred to something different. It's referred to field. So you assign same field and here because this here you have the
Okay.
run name.
But if he doesn't have such kind of argument, where go? Но он же не мог найти какой-то большой буквы.
Он defined вот то, что придет с него сверху или аргумента, то значение получит, будет храниться вот в этой вот
Я понимаю, если здесь была ошибка, почему он все равно что-то сделал?
Он положил ее в первый случай, это была один аргумент,
Это
мы
да.
использовали
Да.
аргумент, и, соответственно, создавали новый. Потом мы
разделили.
у нас было
Да.
название аргумента, и
Да.
мы подключили к камерам. У нас было
Всем пакет же это по факту вся в одном пакете, который загружается в несколько классов с одинаковым именем, и он сразу первый старт пойдет. Может, но есть нюансы. Okay, we get some, I get some overall impression what should be repeated, what part. So we will review one of the work and see how we can.
Can I ask a question? So
Yeah.
the difference is that I have two classes. That's the reason why I can't get to that step.
Yes, yes, we have. You have access modifier private, and it's not
Yeah,
accessible. So
and I understood.
okay, I will create a new class. Uh, um, no, I need new. I need new package. Sorry. In order to avoid some conflicts with classes, when we have two classes with same name, we should use packages. We will discover it later in this lesson, but for now I will just create a new package in order to distinguish my already existing driving group class from that which we will have right now. So oops, mix it up, class name with package. So I get some example of this implementation from one of the students. So let's review what we have. We have final name and description. What is wrong here? What we should take in account that right now description also will be final. Student declared this variable in one line, so it's allowed. I personally don't like this, so better do one by one.
But if it's in one line, that means that when we write name, we also write description as like together, or it's separate to fields?
It's separate to fields, but they have same type and behavior. So better don't do this. So it would be easier, but it's possible. It could be useful if, for example, you have a lot of similar data structure which represents some cells. It's so cell 1, cell 2, cell 3, and so on. So then you can define something like that. But if you have something repeated and iterative, you need to think to change in overall your approach, how you write your program. So okay, so we split that. So right now our description isn't final as it should be, so we can change it. We have static field country, it's okay. We have some extra field max speed, okay, let it be. And we have something static final. So as you know, static final is constant, and constant should be written with uppercase, and words should be split by underscore. So let's refactor that. You can, of course, you can rewrite it manually, like max speed something, but it's a wrong way because in your code this variable name already appeared. You may see here and somewhere here, and for these purposes we need to use refactor operation, what is provided by IDE. So it will find the variable with same name and change it at once. So either we use mouse and do we click with right click on our identifier and do refactor rename. Here you can see shortcut Shift Alt R, and I suggest to use it. So we just remove everything and there is some syntax error. Refactor prohibit to do this. Let's for now just resolve the syntax error, and now we can proceed. We rename also second one. Okay, also we have another few fields static, like total rules, lights, pedestrian. Let it be. Again, I want to mention that you should follow naming convention. If it's a simple variable, a method name, in Java you should use camel style, so camel case. Yeah, so again we are renaming them. So first word starts from the small letter, but second word and any further starts from the capital letter. Okay. It is required in order to easily understand other code. So you need somehow at first understand where words ends and where starts new. In different languages it's realized in different. Some of them use underscore. What else they use? Yeah, actually most often is use underscore and capitalizing of the first letters of the word. In Java, for these purposes, is used capitalization of first letter of the word. Okay, let it be. What we have here, we have constructor, which defines accurately our field. So take into account, make sure that you assign that what you really want. You can check it using the highlight of the IDE. In my case, when I click on that name, I see what exactly variable I will add to our field. So, and again, I choose name and I can see to which variable I am reference, or I do reference. So in this case, yeah, it is prohibited because it's final. Let's take description. So looks like it works fine. Yeah, we have description to which we assign description, but it isn't so, because I click on description and I see that all three variables are highlighted, so it's one variable. So here I just set the same variable to the same variables. I set same variable, so it's useless. So take account into highlighting. Okay. Yeah, here we have just grammatically correct sentence. If it's one rule, we say there is, and if it's more, there are. So okay, it's developer decided, let it be. let's keep specific implementation of developer, what he wanted to do this, but we will just make sure that naming of the identifiers are correct. Here again we have countryside, there is 2 words, but they are written as one. We do refactoring. So actually I don't see any value of this operation, what is handled here. It's mainly for student who wrote this. I will just ignore this for now. Another thing what you should keep in mind, that here we have 2 classes. If you will open the file, you will see what we have here, and also you may see the members of our classes. So here we have class app, it's public, and we have driving rule. We will discuss accessing of private fields from different scopes later, but for now, if you want to access some private constant from another class, you need to make them public. Come on. Okay, there was another one question regarding the static identifiers. So right now we don't need that one.
I'm sorry. In the example you showed before, you didn't do like through the class, through driving rule. It was still private static, no? In the example you did before.
It was in one class, in my case.
In the same driving rule, no?
So here I have
Yeah.
only one class, you see.
Ah, yeah.
So let's play a bit with static field in order to make it a bit clear. So when it may be useful for us, let's assume we have some method called info, which do some short description of our rule. So we will have public method which will just print out information about our rule, which will return some common information like country in which it is located and driving rule name. So that's it. Let's make our method more explicit, call it print info, and here we will print out such information as it is rule of country
Maybe it was this name before this name.
Yeah, you're right. Concatenation issue. So we could put the country as a instance variable. So it would be stored in each object which we would create. If we would create 30 rules, then each object would have separate variable of country, and we could define it for each. So let's see, let's generate some getters and setters. Okay. So set country Estonia. So we will give some country information to each of the rule, not each but to some, and we will do print out of information on each rule. So okay. Oh, it's rule 2, rule 2. Okay, it will be enough with 3 example. So what we have, so together let's simplify our output. Yeah, almost all of them have Estonia, only rule 3, where we haven't defined it explicitly what country it should be, there stayed Latvia.
And if you would now change the variable to static, then all 3 would be Estonia, right? Because the last declaration was for Estonia, yes? If you now change it's a static, so all 3 would be Estonia, yeah?
It would be dynamically change their value, so they would refer. So for example, this rule was applied to Estonia, and we decided to move them to Latvia, changing it to one object, static field. What is bad practice? It would change this value for every.
So if static, then it would show now all Estonia, no?
Yes. So, and if, for example, we have the same country everywhere. Oh yeah, there was 3. What for we need to store same, what for we need to have separate variable for this information. While it is string, it's okay to have, but later we may have more bigger and complex data structure about which we should think to reduce amount of space that they allocate. So, and we can just make it static and define it once. Static field, it's bad practice to set static field through the instance variable, through object. Usually they're set through the class, but again, you should think about prohibiting to change this value for everyone. So yeah, and here we have driving country for our driving rule Latvia, and we can change it for every so let me make it public in order that I would be able to show to you how we can change this value. So yeah, so this information value of country is used by every object what we have. In such case, in country, we are referencing to not to the object variable but to the class variable. Okay. Any questions? What we have? Okay, on previous lecture you should get a bit familiar with the version control system. Does everyone has account on GitHub right now? Who hasn't? Raise your hand. Okay, good. So right now I will try to push all my changes to GitHub. You will be able to just watch once more time. And later I will share all my code changes through the GitHub so that you could fetch the information and latest code what I have. Okay, I need probably to, oops, it's not my account. Some two-factor verification. So I'm going to create new repository in my GitHub. So it's the place where I will put my project. So I will call it Riga Coding School, just RCS. I will make it public. Add some description, content from lectures. So, and just will create repository. Okay, so right now I have few possible solutions. So I can create from scratch new project, but it will not work for my all changes for my code what I already have. So right now I will initialize Git repository on my computer, add all files, commit them, and push them to my origin repository, which is located in GitHub. So I will take only this one project, RCS. Let's go to
Yesterday we found out that it's not there.
sorry?
Yesterday we found out that it's not there, that you can't navigate to the folder. We just found them in the folder. It's in the folder.
Okay, it's here. Here's the folder of my project. Let's navigate to it through the I will open new command line, new terminal session, and we'll navigate to the folder where is my project located. So it should be familiar for you already how to navigate. And right now I will need to do initialization of my wrapper. So it's done. After that I want to check what is the status, what the files I have here. It's good practice to have git ignore file. Have you heard something about this? So in order to don't put everything into your remote repository at all, into version control. So if it's some big files, executables, it's bad idea to put them under version control. So if you will change it, it will not make it slower, but it will take more time, and it will trigger changes for the whole file. So if you may know, git track changes of lines. So but if changed some executable file, binary files, it will mark all file as changed, and it will take more space for him. So it's bad idea to put all your files under the version control. So mainly you need to put only source code. As you know, Java generates bytecode. So we have Java classes, and we have some bytecode, what is generated by compiler. This bytecode shouldn't be put into version control. So we put only Java classes. So Git has such file which it reads and makes sure that which folders, which files should be ignored. So it calls git ignore, and git ignore should be like this. Wait, this. Okay, probably put it somewhere in wrong way. I will just create it with v command line to make it more easier. So I don't want to put such folders as So there is some example of git ignore for Eclipse project. So in our case, I don't need pin and temp. I will put it here. I just refresh my mind what files and folders we should exclude. So Okay, so I defined that I want ignore from adding under version controls bin and temp folders and files with that project. I check one more. So you may check that before I have created this file, Git found following files and folders what it could add to control. There it was class path, project, bin, source. I have added few ignore notation like bin, temp, and project. And here see what it returned. So right now it see only few of them.
I'm sorry, how, when we are going to push our files, how we are gonna know what we need or and what we don't need, for example? Do we always don't need bin, git, and something else?
So right now, as I have mentioned, we don't need compiled files. What become bytecode? They're right now stored in bin folder. So it depends on IDE which you use. So on each it's different. In Eclipse it's bin. So again, you mainly need to put only Java files. Well, right now, while we are working with simple project. So most important for us is source folder. Git ignore files also should be there. And class path
In which folder do we put the git ignore file? In the part
in root folder.
Which?
In root folder. Root.
Okay.
So it's not mandatory right now for you. I just
No, we just didn't make it yesterday, so the person was to Google it. So now we don't have to Google it because it's that's why I'm asking.
okay.
That was the question that we didn't get to, because we pushed all our workspace in
Repository.
in hub, but we put everything now without ignore.
Yeah.
Okay. It will be tricky to move them out.
Just we don't update them anymore. That's already good. Maybe in my new repository it will be easier.
You will have fun. You will have fun during the evening, trying to move them out.
After today, it's weekend.
Okay, so right now we are going to add these files to track by Git. For this we will use git add command, and I will specify to add all files using the dot. So right now every file in my repository every file and folder will satisfy its criteria will be tracked by Git. So we check the status. It says that what he will track, and I will make the initial commit, which will set this as a snapshot, to which I can later return. So I do commit, and I will add some message initial commit. Okay, let's check git status again, what we have. So it says we are on branch master, nothing to commit, and now I will push everything to my repository. Okay. Good. Now all my files are in GitHub. Oh, here it is. I will share the link with you. You can go and clone it, and I will put my changes there and push them in, but you will just pull them to your local environment and you can track what I have. Yep. So let's create new channel for today. Okay. Let's have some time break, and you may try to clone this repository and import it into your Eclipse project. So yeah, please try. Who want may have some time break. Has everyone signed it? Yeah.
We can somehow follow.
Sorry?
We can like push for follow or something.
Have
See
you?
when you make change.
Right now you need to clone it.
Yeah, but like from the content we see if you have any changes to it.
I will notify you by Slack something.
Okay.
So I will not send these changes in Slack, but I
Mhm.
will just update my repository and you will be able to download it.
Es attēlīšu lūdzu.
Nē, netaisītos, vajag štai nekustus.
Nu, es domāju,
Bet nu tā kā var jāpārspēlē.
pāris minūtēm.
Vispār ir augsts. Gaisa arī nav tas nav ventilāts.
21. decembris meitenes.
Nu, jā. Tad jāsāk domāt, ko mēs norepotējam klubakā. Bet tomēr nebija cik rakstāk ir Spotify. Viss tā vēl žēlieši ir pārkrāsot.
Ko ir pārkrāsot?
Pārkrāsoja jau to pustojumu.
Ko ir datum, ko es atcerēšos no kura
Es
datuma?
nezinu, bet šodien tur līnijas jāstāsta, ko viņš izdarīs. Viņš uztaisīs divas jotas taipusē vai, nu, bet koši viņi kaut ko sakrāsot.
Neatrodas, ka tur nepārtrauc skrienāt tās mašīnas.
Nu, protams, es braucu, tur tikai viena josta.
Ar 19. novembri.
Nu jā, tāpēc viņš šeit krāsot.
Es domāju, otrdien, jā. Ar kuru kristēju? Internieku krastāns stāvvalsts steigā. Tur aizlieks kreiso stāvvalsts, neaizturiešu slodzi uz dzīvojamām zonām. Tur jau
Principā mana iela cietīs.
Ja, ne, tā, vai
Man
arī, ja brauc
patīk.
iepriekš, ķipa ir, tu vari tā kaut struktūru uzgriezt, tur ir tāds zālīši, kas aiziet pa diagonāli. Bet tā vispār tā tur ir ieliņa grabām, malams tā mašīnas. Tur ir, principā, principā viņi tur ir viena josla, ja tur sāk abos virzienos intensīvi braukāt, tad tur ir reāli,
Mums
bet
tur reāli
ziemā
mums
tur ir
ir,
pilnīgs ledus.
Ja mums ir tas servis sāps,
Jā.
tur viss tie vecie saldi mētājas, visur viņi ir mētājas. Bet tur ir tā kā dzīviem zona, tur visi tik parkojas, kā viņi bija. Ja tur vēl pēc sākas braukt normāli
Jā, tu
satiksmi,
kā
tad viņi
visi,
slēdz.
kas brauc uz, kas ved uz,
Un tā ir būtnieki jau tiešanāk mūsu.
teiks visu, reāli, teiks, un tur, nē, redzēt.
Tu vienkārši sakārtos to, tu nebrauc vairs divās joslās, tas pāriet vienā, un ka tur vienkārši abas brauc, un tad
Tas
brīnās,
uzlabojums
tiek
vismā
priekšā.
bija arī tad, kad viņi sadalīja otru virzienu. Pateic,
Nu,
ka tā
jā,
jau
reizēm,
tur
kad
ir
otrs-
sūdīgi, tāpēc, ka biķerdziedi atstāja
Tieši tā bija pārklēta, tad tieši viena mašīna var iebraukt.
Jā, un tur viss
Bet otrajā pusē tur nav bijis, tu esi kāds tāds domas divas. Un tu redzi, ka tev vajag tāda
Tāpēc es
viena.
saspiežās.
Nu, jā,
Ja es
tu
taisu
tieši
kreiso,
tā.
tad es saprotu, bet
Tā
ja
jā.
brauc taisni, tad čau.
Jā,
Tā kā
un tu
kreisais
labāk-
tur tagad nebūs, tad es
Es
nezinu.
tur vienmēr iestājos vienkārši pa vidu, pīkli, tad tu gribi, es braucu taisni. Un nu nebraucu pa kreisi, tur nav jāstāv.
Ja tur pa to kreisi, nu, tur var uz kuriem 6, 7, tad arī indīgas taisa pa kreisi.
Nu tāda jā, tad ir jā.
Un tad ir tā kā
Bet tad būs
kur
jākrāso, ka
stāvēt.
tas tikai pa kreisi.
Nu, tā kā pretējā
Jā.
virzienā iet. Nē, nekas, ne vienkārši aizliedz. Kā tagad vienkārši skrustens ir sūdīgs. Vienkārši tagad sanāk no 4 kreisiem 2 būs aizliedz. Tu taisi vēl vien ar to kreiso. Tāpēc, ka tur arī stulbi reāli tālāk, tu aizēji, tu rāns jau noslogoji, tāpēc, ka pabraucēji pa tās priekš un tad mēs.
Zināmais vakar
Tad vēl
pusē tā
stulbāk
bitinieks
ir.
stāv jau kopš kas tik
Nu,
tālu,
kā
jau
jau.
pie kreisi, tad ir
Jo tur
milzīgs.
ir sevišķi tā vai iela, visas tās nākamās, kas tur iet, tur reāli tā, ka tas, ko tu saki, tu lien ārā, tu jau neredz. Bitinieki iela nāk, 60, 70 mašīnas, tu viņas nevar redzēt, tu nepārtiec.
Tāpēc es braucu nevis vienmērā uz vietu, bet no mājas, braucu pagalmiem, līdz tur pie Rīgas satiksmes.
Jā,
Jo turismos tu vari pārredzēt, jo tur tai pusē neviena mašīna nestāv, un otrā nu reizēm ir čābīgi. Bet tur tā kā var palikt klusakos, tur var tikt ārā vēl.
Man bojas, man liekas, ka tajā tālāk pusē, kur ir uz bitiniekās izšķēdījis pilnīgi jaunu Škodu. Nu, nebija viņam bija otra mašīna, bet viņš melno ladu uzslīdēja bitiniekiem. Un pa bitinieku ielu brauca Džeks, kurš uzskatīja, ko, man ir galvenais ceļš, ko viņš te brauc. Un nedomāja bremzēt vispār. Un bojas, es neko nevaru izdarīt.
Tas
Un
tā viņš
man
teica.
bremzes pedāls ir nospiests un viss,
Jā,
es
jā,
vienkārši
jā.
slīdu. Un beigsies, ka tam puisim, kuram bija nezinu 9 gadu tiesības, kā bija tēva darba mašīna, kas principā bija mēnesi izrīkots no salona. Un tas bija pat, nu, es pieļauju, ka kāds gadus tika kaut 10, atpakaļ. Tur bija vienkārši tā summa, ko viņi mokta noskaitīja. Viņi ieraudzīja to summu, un tur bija.
Kas man?
Nē, sanāk, viņi okta noskaitīja tai otrai mašīnai. Tas viņš jau bija vainīgs, viņš jau izslīdēja. Tikai tas otrs puisis varēja izdarīt visu, lai izvairītos no tā, ka daudz mašīnas, jo
tā taisnīgs pierādīšana,
viņam
tu redzi,
viņam
ka
bija salīdzinoši lētāka mašīna, viņi pateica, labi, tu esi vecāki, pateica, labi, tu esi dzīvs un aizved uz šrotu. Un, nu, tur, tā bitinieki, un tur tā kustība, viss nešķiems, viss.
Protams, un tas, ko mums kāldās māmas ir mājās izgribēt uzliekt regulējumus gājiet pārēj. Un tas ir tas, ka tur,
Nu, tur, piemēram, šobrīd ļoti cepās un bija tikus uz vestibuls, sanāk tas gals, kur ir ierķi iela.
un tas ir
lielā
tālāk,
iela.
jā.
Bet
Tur
tur
bija
jāapzinās,
tālāk.
tur, ne, jā, viens nevar, tur ir tā, ka tur, tur apurās caur dzīvēm zonām pēc koks un viņi. Un tur bija vestibula, kā tur pēņas bija pasilduši un saka, tur vēl nu kā viņiem laikam nav vietas, viņiem ir tikai tā, nu, tas ceļš, kas ir pagalmā. Un tu gadi bērnu no rīta dārzi, un tā plūsma ir tāda, ka tu vienkārši neties, kurš tas dārzi nokavēšu, es laidīšu katru mašīnu. Un tu tur brauc policijas, protams, skaidrojās, ka tā viņš, nu, protams, ka neviens to nebrauc 20 km stundā. Protams, ka, nu, jā, ka tu neviens nevar, tam dzīvojumā zonā gājējiem ir priekšroka pret mašīnu, kurā vietā.
Nu, ir
Tā teikt, ka tām dzīvojumām zonām ir tik tajā pašā laikā. Man sanāk tālvalža un nav viņa paralēli, bet ir tā ārēši jau tā milzīga platā iela dzīvojumā zonā, kur nav gājēju celiņi, tas ir ok, bet viņi ir mežonīgi milzīga vieta, kur es ceru, tas nav privātīšanas un zālēs viss. Tad tur vēl cilvēks sakrām, bet tu akmeņus, lai tur toči nevar, lai tu var vēl apdauzīt tā mašīna, ja tev kaut kur jāvalkās. Un tur, nu, tas ir pilnīgi nesaprotams, bet es saprotu, ka tur ir bijis paredzēts kaut kāda baigais trasa, kaut kāda cauri, nu, kad ir projektēta pilsētas rajons, ka tur ir paredzēta bijusi kaut kāda milzīgā tranzīta notikšana, ka no Lielvārdas, kaut kur tur no Lielvārdas, kad arī aizbraukas iela ir milzīga tur pie institūtiem.
Nu, bet tur viņi nopirkot tā, ka čau.
Jā, bet es teiktu,
Vispār
tur
nevar
ir bijis
izbraukt
paredzēta
cauri.
kaut kāda trasa, kaut
Nu,
kur uz kaut
jā,
kurien
jā,
cauri,
jā.
vienkārši tas nav īstenojams.
Nu, tā kā ir tur.
Bet tas kreisais, tas būs nē, pirmkārt pašiem būs jāiemācās, jo, piemēram, cik bieži mēs esam braukuši, mēs arī varam izbraukt pa cituriem, mēs aizbraucam uz Bitinieku ielu cauri, un mēs nesanātais. Tu brauc uz priekšu, kaut kur met, man puisis vai viņš met riņķī vēl pirms Raunsēls, tur tā koju māja, tā vēlētā māja, tur ir tā, tur nezinu, kur esam. Jā, ir, nu, tur no rītiem es izteiktu tā plūsmi.
Vairāk tās skolas.
Tas ir ceturtā jau vispār ir milzīgs. Tas ir ceturtā jau sākuma skola. Viena Raunsēlas sākuma skola. Pēc tam vēl tālāk.
Я честно скажу, вчера все было понятно, сейчас опять непонятно.
Значит, завтра опять все понятно?
Не знаю, нет такой зависимости. Ну,
Es par to, ka būtu jābūt daudz tālāk. Ja viņi tik sākās, viņam ir tāds pats nemēns, kā mums.
Otrā jau ir otrā banka augstskola sākās.
Jā.
Kāpēc mums ir šitā?
Nu, es domāju, ka tas diezgan vienāds un tāds vecs, ne?
Bet viņam arī, protams, arī pirmo reizi.
Man kolēģis teica, jo prot, es domāju, lielācies pasīcībā.
Nu, jā, ir tā.
Nu, bet es mums visu mēģināju, vienkārši izmēģināt.
Tas man bija vainīgi, viņš pateica, ka mēnesi bija kodus.
Jā, tā, jā,
Viņš vienkārši
pasniedzēju.
visu
Kāls programmā arī pasniedzēs pirmo reizi, otrā jau arī pasniedzēs pirmo reizi. Nā, mums vienkārši izmēģina.
Ne, kas ir pieļauj, tur nav sāk.
Bet es atšķirāt, ka es citu savu domāju, ka to vajadzētu būt.
Wow! Tiešām! Vajadzētu apmācību par to, kā jāmācā.
Pilsēnā blakus kaimiņiem ir venderis, vai tikai arī viens?
Mums ir
Tā pudelī, jeb...
Viena
pudeli mums ir vajadzēja. Mēs gribam pilnīgi vai atstāt.
Es domāju, ka mēs neizvisam.
Šis uzskatījums tēja vēl ir? Mums ir tēja. Kāpēc jums arī varbūt ir? Ja es tieši nācu, tad uzskatīju par tēju un kafiju. Jūs varat atnākt pakaļ pie mums? Jā.
Un jums tik forši, tik plaši.
Jā, labi.
Sēdēs un praks.
Jā, vajadzēs bišķi izvērt.
Es jā.
Tie ir divi varianti, vai jūs sausti vai nav? Kā tad to māks arī?
Bet mājas, kas nezinu iesprāst. Viņš taču maksājās vienreiz. Tēja arī viņiem ir, jā. Tēja, ūdens, tēja, ūdens. Aku nezinu, tas ir sensitīvs kaut.
Mums jau tagad šķēk, tas ir no klasi.
Skaties rīt, ir loģiski. Viņa laikam kāpēc nemācījās vakarā. Tas ir kaut ko labāk. Tas mēs nezinām.
concentravo la bocca.
Mēs meklējam vienu kolēģi to grāmatu, kas ir tā par to Japānā, par tam kalnu gāju. Džeks saka, kas sauc viņš kāds tos līdzekļus neatceros. Mēs patīkam, mēs grēkam. Mēs tagad mums bibliotēkā ko ciet eksemplāri par visu Latviju, tur ne, uz Nacionālo bibliotēku pasūtīs. Tā grāmata, tas nezinu, 7 lapas. Viņa tāda, ka tad, kad man ņēma sakums, bet nevienu šeit ir vietas no krājumiem. Viņi manīja uz Latvijas visādām bibliotēkām, mēģināja saprast, kur viņi tam būs. Tādēļ viena sēsijas. Jā, bet tu nevarēji viņu tā vienkārši tur pasūtīt. Nu, tad no sēsiju pārņemt uz Rīgu, to vajadzēja būt Latvijas universitātes. Latvijas universitātes studenti, un viņi atnēja toreiz, bet viņi nebija studenti, un viņi tur atnēja. Tā kā ir labi vietā.
Okay. Who has succeeded to clone my repository? Okay, good.
This is only the one project, so you will make repository for each project that you make? Or
Have you succeeded?
to clone?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
I didn't try.
Okay, then let's try and let's see what will be. I will show it and you will repeat. So I have sent to everyone the link to this repository, so let's go to it. Select clone or download, select this link. Okay, yeah. So we will copy it. This one repository we will clone. Right now we are going to Eclipse. Okay, let's do it all together. So click File, Import. Project from CVS. Maybe not. Okay, it's a bit different. So yeah, we can do it in both ways, so it's kind of more user-friendly. But if you will do it in command line, you will be able to do this also from the graphic interface. So okay, it's works different than on my computer. So let's do this in command line. Let's navigate to our workspace.
Can you
Yeah, the screen is not
Okay. So just navigate to your workspace. In my case, it's home student and some workspace too. In your case, it will be just workspace. I will create new folder you don't need because I have already such project. In other way, it will conflict. Okay, we are opening our terminal. Let's check where we are. We are in home student. We check list of all files what we have. So I don't know where is located your workspace. Mine is workspace 2. You probably have just workspace. I navigate to workspace. So you stay here. I'm going another. And here we do git clone and put the link what we have specified.
That link we copied.
Git clone and the URL of the repository.
Your new repository.
Sorry?
Git clone
And URL of this one. Okay, it should be done.
How do we now get it that it shows in Eclipse? That's the question.
Sorry?
How do we now get that it shows in Eclipse?
We will
There is a folder.
we will go right now to import this project into our Eclipse.
I have only one line. What do you have so many lines?
I'm also interested, so I'm
I also have the same.
sorry?
Many lines? I have only one
I
line.
have one.
Okay, so now we are going to
You are now in file import.
yeah.
Can you please?
So it's import and then file system. Or how is it?
Okay, I will repeat.
Yeah.
Import general file system, and I do browse. I do open my project, so you will have it here. You select this RCS. It will be, you will have it here, but I have one in RCS. So I select everything and I do finish. Okay. No.
It was, we clicked on all, that is, and then what?
That's why it's just a browse. Давай ще раз, будь ласка.
Ну, like a finish.
The finish and active. The active is finished.
Yeah, I'm active.
Это проект.
Does it into?
Yeah, into folder.
Okay, few minutes.
Yeah, I will just try one more again. No, I will check what went wrong.
Es izveidoju jaunu, kā to sauc, project, real project, un tur ieliku visu. Un tur, kur pirmie jautāja, kas tam ir aktīvi.
Do we have to enter something in
Es
the
gribu ielikt.
into folder?
Nu, nē, un tagad man viss. Jā,
Bet tu taisīji to folderu atsevišķi, kā vienkārši aizvišot cieši, vai kurā brīdī ņemtēsi?
into new folder. Nu, es tā vienkārši.
Do we have to enter something into folder or no? We have to select some into folder?
Not really. One moment. We'll check. Okay. Let's do it one more again. So, has everyone on their seat? So we select File and select New Java Project. Here we select Special Location. Has everyone on that step?
Yeah.
And we browse our file. So I'm in folder student. I go to the place where the project was checked out. You should found workspace here, and here you should found the project which you have checked out from the Git. Okay, we select the folder RCS.
Where is this one?
I don't even know.
What one?
Only have six.
Yeah, it's okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, it's okay. We just need to be inside of.
Okay, so you should be inside of RCS folder. Okay, and we do. Oh, I just need to give another name. You don't. You should have right now button finish.
No.
You also don't have?
No.
No.
Because it overlaps the location of another project. Because we imported in the workspace, like first the folder of our workspace, and now we're trying to make a new RCS that's already there.
But I defined the project name where it should appear.
Yeah? What did you define? Because we have the same announcement that you have on the top.
This project is already in this location.
Yeah. So we have a folder RCS there.
Okay.
Because I think we are now trying to make a new folder there. Yeah? No. So it's the same folder too with the same name.
With which folder it overlaps in your case?
The RCS, the same name.
Yeah, I
Because we
created,
already put in.
I created the subfolder and now it works. Like
Yeah, but
it's
for
the
what?
same.
Because we are using the workspace. So. It works if you like write just RCS
For
and then
yeah, the problem is that I have subfolders and it's moved to workspace as was mentioned. So
Klasa, kaut arī ieiet iekšā vai mapē, tur, kur ir tā lecture. Jo pirms tam mēs kaut kā, nē, vienkārši iekšā.
Viņš tur nav, tehnikā viņš tas, nu vienīgais, ka ir package error.
Bez pirms koneksija.
Jā.
Nu, to jau.
okay, let's leave it for now. I will figure out how to handle this. So right now we are not able to import the Git project directly into our Eclipse, and doing like I have shown to you, we will not be able to update our project automatically. So I need to play around on this computer and figure out. Sorry for this one. Okay, and what was next on our plan?
Object array.
Finish something from the previous lessons what we haven't covered. So I will share with you at first this example, while we are not able to share it through the version control system,
I need to get my USB flash drive on.
okay, we need to finish with static method and package, but at first we will take a look at some helpful method like toString. It's quite useful for cases when we need to identify with which object we are working, and for these purposes each object has such a method as toString. Here you may see that by default, if we will create new object of class dog, are you with me? And we will pass it directly to print ln function, it will print out something like that. It will consist from the class name and hash code. And under the hood, the println method will execute on any object what we have passed. Method call it toString. So what it's mean? Let's put our rule free into this println method and see what will happen. So so here we have declared the variable for our instance, and here we have initialized our object driving rule. So after that we just pass it to printout method, and what we see here we have our class. There is some extra information, package on which it's located, and some identifier which is based on hash code. It's not very useful information for developer, and you may ask where from this information is retrieved. It's retrieved from toString methods. So each object has it. default one is defined in parent of our driving rule class. Each object has some parent. It is object. We will cover it hopefully today. If I will add this information to my class method string, which has following signature like public, string, and toString, then this method will be executed when we will try to print out our object. So yeah, we don't need to explicitly say toString. The result is the same. If I will remove this and I will try to ask some hints from IDE, you will see that there is some method which is predefined on this object. So like equals get country, it's our object. I will make it more simpler. So here we have empty class, there is nothing. And you may see that there still are some method which is available on it, but we haven't defined them. So they come to this method from parent of driving rule. And if we will go into this method of which is defined in class object, you will see what it does. So it gets his name and add identifier which is based on hash code. So there is no any magic. And if we will remove it again, the same toString method is executed on the object. But if we want to have our own description of class object, we need to define toString method.
And how can we quickly get this with the override?
Manually. It's the best way right now. So
if you manually work, you don't need to write this override?
You need to write it. It's not mandatory, but you need to write. It's part of overriding, and it's part of our next topics. So
basically, we don't need to make like we had previously methods like output or something like this or like write, and then we don't make methods like those anymore. We just make toString.
yes, toString, and put the object into system out println.
Yeah,
I think it's
like as just we are using it smarter now. Like we did methods of output, now we just make it this way.
yeah. So what I have mentioned, so each object has this method, only usually it's default, what is defined in object, and for user it's not useful. So we should override it, define our content, and we can use it. Don't forget to use hint of IDE on functionality, what allowed to do our class. So control space, and we will get access to all members of our class. We can see also these members in project structure. So here you can see what we have for our class defined. Yeah, actually that's all about toString. It's just to make your life easier. Okay, and static method. We have covered static variable, but haven't speak about static method. So some information what you need to keep in mind. So they belong to class, and you can access them only from the static context. You can access from static method only static data. You can access instance variable. So what it means? Let me show an example.
So can you send us presentation?
Yeah, sure. So let's create new class where we will see how static works. I will create a static example. So what we can see, our main method actually is static, and it's used by Java in order to start executing our application. If we will create new class, let's call it student, and it has some instance variable like don't need to type, I just try to explain what it means. You can't access from static method any instance variable. So we will create a student. Actually, we have discovered it many times that we can access directly field of student. It will say to us that such field isn't accessible. We can refer only to static field inside other classes. So right now we are in static method, and we can access only static information. It will be like So we are not able to access student name because we haven't created the object, but we can access school. So this part you should understand. What is the main difference? Is it clear that you are not able to access some object data without referring or do reference exactly to that object at first? Okay, what else we should know about the static method? You may ask yourself when you may need them. If a method which you put inside of your class doesn't process any instance, any field of this object, it's probably a sign that you should make it static. So if we have method sum and we don't operate with objects variables, we should make them static. So if we here have something like get user info, we will have method inside of this method we are referencing to the instance variable, so we cannot make it static. But if our method do only some common operation which doesn't require process instance variable, we may create it static. So example could be let's say what is your school? And for example, he will say that some default answer which will not involve any object variable, just I'm not student yet. So probably we may make this method static. So while we don't refer to any of instance variable, it could be static. Another example, if we have method just sum, what I have mentioned before, this method will work only with arguments what we have passed to that. Yeah, so I just we can put it in any place. So it's just not related to student, but let it be. So in order to get sum, we don't need to create a student object, because this method works only with passed arguments. And to do this, we can just make it static.
So is it necessary to write in that order, public, static, and void, for example? Or
Yeah, so at first go access modifier, after that field method modifier, and returns type. So you probably agree, we don't need to create student object in order to get result of some operation which doesn't involve student itself. We can just call student.sum.
If we are working like with a class, and the class has static variable and normal variable, and we want to do toString method, then we cannot print, we cannot return the static variable together with the instance variable, can we?
We can access static variable from
Inside
instance.
the class.
Inside, from the object we can access it. If we have created some object, so, and
And then we can access static without okay.
yeah, so, and another thing that static cannot refer to this, and super. We will cover super later, but you should keep in mind this. So from static context, I can do this and something. Okay, here would be better example. Because I'm not inside the object. Okay, and let's see how our main method works. So as you may see, we have some argument what is passed here. You should already know that it's array of strings what we can pass there. So until now we haven't did this, so but right now we can try it. So we can print out information what we will pass to this. So for these purposes we may use enhanced loop operation. So we will take all arguments what is passed to us and print them out. So what we take each element from the array which is passed, and we just print them out. So how we can pass some arguments to our method. For these purposes we need to go to our project and compile it. I will show it at first in terminal, how we can do this. For simplicity, I will move this class from the package what I have in order to make it more simpler. So this package right now will make our life only more complex. We will see the simple example. Yeah, I just want to show how we can pass some arguments to our application when it starts. So I navigate to the project and to my application where it's located, source. So here it is, and as you remember, we need to compile at first our Java code to bytecode. You see, we got static example class, and now we just want to execute it and pass some arguments. And we will do arg1, arg2, arg3, and here it is. So we have specified arguments what we want to pass to our application by spaces, and they yeah. So that was done in old days. Now we can do this in more common way. Just run Java application. Nothing is outputted because we haven't passed nothing, but we can pass argument through the IDE. So if you select configure your program execution, here we will have tab arguments, and we can specify them here.
In what cases would we pass the program arguments?
Sorry?
In what cases would we pass the arguments to the public main, to the main?
Okay, for example, your application will process some file, just transfer some data. So it will be kind of big Excel, and you want to simplify it. So you will specify path to this file. Your application will read this file, transfer data.
So, and then the argument will be passed to the file.
Yeah, it's one of example. So it could be another way you
But
can.
every time it's a string. There's like.
Yeah, it's.
I pass it as a string, and then I deal with it with maybe a different, how to transfer to different. If I would need to transfer maybe amount of something from like a different, I would still give it as a string.
Yes, you will need to convert it. So it's
and then convert it
to whatever you need, to number or something like that. Right. Okay, and here we get our arguments. Okay. Actually, we have a break. Some of you can practice it yourself, do some work. But right now it's lunchtime, so
For how long?
30 minutes.